Hello everyone, my name is Margaret Sinyama. Welcome to our Climate Action Challenge 2025. I'm from Group 1 and my group members are Alice, James, Theoneste and Mwenya. Our teacher was Sheila and our mentors were Mariska and Lavelisana. Our project title is Restoring Native Ecosystems for Climate Resilience and Community Wellbeing, Integrative Approaches to Flood and Climate Risk in Chimanimani. So our case study, we chose Chimanimani, which is a district in Zimbabwe. So the background of the area that we chose, we specifically chose Ngangu, Kopa, and Nyawode, which covers around 1,000 hectares. And the reason why we chose those specific areas is because they are secluded when intervention measures are being put in place, especially after the cyclone Idai. Most parts of Chimanimani were affected, but Ngangu, Kopa, and Nyawode, they are still suffering from the effects of Cyclone Idai and Cyclone Freddy because they were not given enough attention. And the areas are prone to flooding and cyclones. The area is also characterized by high mountains, steep slopes, and high productive soils. Especially on steep terrains, there are high productive soils, and most people are settling there to maximize on productive soils. The area is also has both exotic and indigenous trees like mahogany, pine, eucalyptus, and musasa. So in general, we can say Zimbabwe has experienced numerous cyclones since 2000. Like we also have the famous cyclone Idai in 2019, and in 2023 we have cyclone Freddy. So these cyclones have left devastating effects, and people are still recovering from the effects of such impacts. Therefore, our target is to restore this degraded landscape, reduce flood risks, and strengthen community resilience. So we'll try to integrate indigenous knowledge and nature-based solutions, and also try to have native species being put in place, the likes of Muhunze, which is good at soil fertility, the likes of Mukute, which is good at absorbing water, Tsine, which is good at controlling erosion. Then fruit trees, they are going to provide both erosion control, water absorption. At the same time, they'll be providing food to the local community. So let's look at the environmental degradation at Chimanimani.
Flooding in Chimanimani has caused environmental and social degradation. The environmental challenges are as follows: frequent flooding and mudslides that have displaced communities and damaged infrastructure. There is severe degradation of landscapes that has caused soil erosion, leading to biodiversity loss across more than 1,000 hectares. There's also deforestation coupled with poor land use that has caused destruction of ecosystems and destabilized terrain. Socioeconomic impact is as follows: food insecurity caused by disrupted ecosystems and unreliable harvests, vulnerable livelihoods caused by limited income sources, especially for women and youth. Erosion of traditional knowledge is rife due to shifts towards unsustainable management practices. There are systemic gaps due to lack of governance capacity, donor dependency, and low climate adaptation readiness. So, community empowerment is done through inclusive action that involves engagement of all groups, including elders, women's groups, and youths. To ensure sustainable community adaptation, the traditional land stewardship for climate needs was honored and adapted. And to ensure equitable governance, we addressed power imbalances, promoted inclusive decision making, and built long term local leadership. So I will hand you over to Mwenya.
A 10-year path to resiliency and livelihood. Under this, in our project, we have targets, and these 3 key targets. The first one, 50% reduction in flood impact, revival biodiversity, sustainable agroforest, and craft-based livelihood. Community-led conservation and cultural stewardship is one of the activity. And under this activity, we have the stakeholders that we are working with under this activity. The first stakeholder is the village aids and the spirit mediums. So now we incorporate, or we are going to have the village aids that will identify and protect ecological zones, guide land use using ancestral knowledge. The other stakeholder is the youth group. Digitize, what are they going to do, or what are their responsibilities? To digitize, document traditional erosion control. So they are going to help us in recording these digital documents. The other activity, or the other role of this stakeholder, preserve and share indigenous ecological practices. We can see from our diagram that in order for us to reduce these floods, we need to plant trees. We need to plant grass that will help us in absorbing the water. And this water will, some water will go down, and the other water will be taken up by the plants, and this water is going to be lost to the atmosphere. By that, we are reducing the floods. The other, governance and long-term impact. Under this, we are saying inclusive governance, where we have all the stakeholders, where we have all the participants and the community to be involved in this project, so that we can attain our objective. By including everyone, people are going to own this project and do everything possible for us to be able to attain the 50% reduction in flooding. Then we also talk of community natural-based steering committee. This committee that we are going to have will incorporate 40% women, 30% youths. So we want to have a good representation of women, because women are very important in this project. They are going to help in planting the seedlings and selling them. Then there is also overseeing of the progress towards the goal. They are going to make sure that we move towards the goal of reducing flood. We are going to have another activity of quarterly stakeholder forum, where we'll be holding these quarterly stakeholder forums. And the purpose of this is to reduce the conflict and also to have feedback from all the stakeholders. The other activity is the independent audits. We are going to be having these independent audits so that we ensure that there is transparency and accountability. So our target in 10 years is 50% reduction in flooding, 1,000 hectare restored land. So in Chimanimani, we want to plant trees that are native trees and vegetation. Also, $300 per hectare of livelihood gain. So how are they going to be? We are talking of agroforest here. And we are also talking of seedlings, so they can get that. And 60% of household to adopt the indigenous knowledge-based farming. This is what we want. So if we have this representation, then that can be good for us.
The goal of our project has activity, outcome, and the indicator. Activity number 1 is identification of key stakeholder, community assessment, and integration of indigenous knowledge. Outcome number 1 is to identify degraded zone, scarred site, and the traditional conservation area, incorporating ecological knowledge in species selection. 80% of key stakeholder will be achieved by 2026. Activity number 2, it is deforestation with native species and the community nurseries. Outcome number 2 is establishing tree nurseries, planting cultural important trees. The indicator number 2 is that the vegetation cover will be increased by 60%. Activity number 3, it is track a flood frequency, vegetation cover, feedback session, and risk mapping. Outcome, adaptively managed intervention. Indicator is flood damaged area will be reduced by 50%.
Trade-offs and mitigation strategies. Here we are looking at the complex interactions between the SDGs and achievement of Agenda 2030. By looking at our case, we wanted to check whether the solutions that we are suggesting, they are going to enhance the achievement of Agenda 2030, that is synergies, or they are going to hinder the achievement of other SDGs, that is trade-offs. And the mitigation strategies are the ways we will put in place to try and balance between the synergies and trade-offs. So we looked at climate action, SDG number 13, which is going to enhance climate adaptation, and there are no trade-offs that we found. This will be achieved through community education, reforestation, and climate-friendly policies. We also looked at life on land. This is going to enhance biodiversity conservation. However, land use conflicts might arise. So we suggested the community-led planning and agroforestry, where we encourage co-creation. The community will be engaged so that they will not feel left behind. Then sustainable cities, which is SDG 11. This is going to enhance resilient housing and infrastructure, the infrastructure which is capable of withstanding the flood impacts. However, widening equity gaps might arise. Therefore, there is need to prioritize marginalized groups in infrastructure planning. SDG 1 or 2, which is about no poverty or zero hunger, is going to enhance livelihood and food access, because we are going to advocate for plantation of fruit trees and other agricultural food products which are resilient. However, this is going to result in, or this might result in short-term income loss. Therefore, agroecology and climate resilient jobs are an option to try and balance between the two. Lastly, we also consider that SDG number 17, which is partnerships for goals, is going to be affected. So it's going to enhance local and regional partnerships and try to work towards flood mitigation or flood risk mitigation. However, it might result in donor dependence. So in order to balance the two, they might need to strengthen local governance and funding systems, and also community involvement in trying to fund their local projects in mitigation in climate resilient community, or in achieving a climate resilient community.
In this project, we have identified solutions and outcome. So the first solution is to restore the Chimanimani affected area with native species along the pond areas. And the target is to reduce floods and boost soil stability and biodiversity within the area. The other solution is dam and reservoir reconstructions, where we target to control river flows and ensure water supplies during drought period, because we have identified that in this area during the drought period, these people they really don't have enough water resources. We also want to ensure the watershed is properly managed, where we want to construct terraces and also build check dams for less runoff and better water retention. Not only that, without a community, nothing we can do. We also target to empower the community in different activities, include planning, so that the population can have the ownership to the activities or projects that are being done for them. We have also seen that region partnership as essential or potential asset to share the resources and also reduce the dependencies to foreign investment. We also want to use some climate resilient crops that can persist to floods or cyclone effect for better food security and lower emission. We also want to adapt land use planning, where we want to identify the hazard zones so that people cannot settle to those areas, because we have seen that those areas might be dangerous to their lives when the cyclone suddenly came when they are not prepared. We also want to focus or to put much emphasis on green infrastructures, where we want people to use some permeable pavements or even roads where they can use some construction materials that can allow the water to pass through and get infiltrated and recharge the ground. We complete this video pitch on nature-based solution by thanking the course leader and mentors who have really helped much on this project. Thank you so much.